the show. Now, if you are entertaining this summer, we have got some great ideas for you today. I'm gonna kick things off, obviously, in the kitchen, and I'm gonna make one of my favorite things to make when I've got people coming over. It's super quick, it's really tasty, and it's a total crowd pleaser, and very summery to boot, which is awesome. So we're gonna make my pork tenderloin with a cherry balsamic chutney. It's very tasty. It's really nice. I really like making pork tenderloin for guests. You wanna know why? It's pretty much always on sale. You can find it on sale a lot, and you can often buy it in bulk too. Pop it in the freezer. Just thaw it overnight, you are good to go. And then it looks fancy, because you're making the meat, but it's like really cheap, which is always a good thing. So I'm gonna get to work on the marinade for this pork tenderloin. So I've got a big bowl here, but the first thing I need is 3 cloves of garlic. So I've got some here. Oops, we're almost dropping them. Nailed it, got it, we're ready. All right. Now I'm gonna just roughly chop these. I don't wanna mince them up. I just want a little bit of that flavor to get into the marinade. So I'm just gonna kind of smash the garlic down. This is always fun. If you got like, I don't know, someone coming over that you're not that into, you just like, ugh, you know? All right, give that a little bit of a rough chop as well. That's gonna get that garlic flavor throughout the marinade, but it's not gonna stick onto the meat, so it won't burn. Because burnt garlic doesn't taste that great, so we wanna keep that out of here. So add that on into a large bowl, and I'm actually making a really small amount of marinade here. It's gonna look like it's not enough, but it's a really quick marinade, so it's gonna work beautifully. So into that bowl, I'm gonna add in 3 tablespoons each of balsamic vinegar, grainy Dijon mustard, and oil. This is one of those recipes that you could probably remember. 3 garlic cloves, 3 tablespoons of that balsamic vinegar, but since we're cooking, we're not measuring, we're just going with it. Then I'm going in with about 3 tablespoons of that grainy Dijon mustard. If you don't have grainy Dijon, you could use regular smooth Dijon, or even like a stone ground would work. I like the grainy because it leaves those little pops kind of in there, which is really, really great. So 3 tablespoons of that. So far we've got 3 of each thing, feeling really good about that, and then that oil. So while I'm adding in that about 3 tablespoons of oil, I'm also gonna season that with about a teaspoon of salt. Since this is a marinade and there's a good amount of vinegar in there, the salt is gonna help balance everything out, and it's not all gonna go onto that meat. Most of this marinade goes down the drain, so you're good to go. 3 tablespoons of oil takes longer than you think, just so you know. Okay, I'm gonna call that it. Then I'm also gonna go in with a little bit of pepper. So we've got 3 of most of the things, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then we're going in with 2 pork tenderloin and 2 sprigs of rosemary. So it's pretty easy ratio to remember. That rosemary, you just wanna grab it and maybe give it a little bit of a bust. You don't need to, but if you feel like it, again, getting some energy out, get the back of your knife, the dull side here, just give it a little bit of a tap. That's gonna almost release some of those delicious oils and that perfuminess. Pop that in, and I'm actually just gonna use that rosemary to give this a mix. All right, so give that a mix up and we are good to go. Now I'm gonna go in with 2 pork tenderloins. I love using 2. 2 for me feeds anywhere from 4 very hungry people to like 6-ish people. That's why the only thing I don't love about a pork tenderloin is that it's not great for 2. It's maybe too small for 4. So I usually cook 2 pork tenderloin together. So just pop that into the marinade and just give it a little bit of a flip just to coat. Now, since this is a vinegary marinade, it's gonna work really, really quickly. So as opposed to leaving this in the fridge overnight or anything like that, you just wanna leave it for about 30 minutes on the counter. That's gonna allow the pork to come up to room temperature just a little bit so it cooks nice and evenly. Or you could pop this into the fridge, set it aside covered for at least, or actually at most, an hour and a half. Then take it out, leave it on the counter for about that half an hour to come up to room temp. If you were to leave it for longer, it could get a little funny. The vinegar might pickle it. We don't want that. We're not making corned beef. No, no, no. We're making something extra delicious. So I'm just gonna set that aside and let it do its thing and get to work on that chutney that I was talking about. So I've got a little pot over here, and I'm gonna start working on that delicious kind of savory jam. Because in my mind, a chutney is kind of sort of just a savory jam. So into that pot, I'm adding about a tablespoon of oil. And then I've got 1 shallot here that I've finely minced up. If you don't have a shallot or you just want to use an onion, you can definitely do that. I'd stick with about half of an onion, maybe even a quarter of a big like red onion would work well. Shallots are really nice though. They kind of taste like a mixture between garlic and onion, which is always a good thing. Add in a little bit of salt, season it with a little bit of pepper. At this point, the salt isn't necessarily for flavor. It actually kind of helps the shallot cook down quicker because the salt draws a little bit of that moisture out, allowing this to concentrate and cook down and get nice and a little bit golden, way quicker than without it. So I want that to go for just about 2 minutes, just until a little softened. While that gets going, I'm gonna grab my ginger in my freezer. This is the #1 hack, honestly. If you remember one thing I tell you, put your ginger in the freezer. Because this will never go bad. It's gonna last forever. You're never gonna look in like your fruit bowl and be like, oh, what is that? When it dries up, this is gonna be perfect. It also makes it really easy to add into your recipes. So I just grabbed my rasp, and I wanna rasp in just about 2 teaspoons of that ginger. Now, if you've never had pork and ginger together, it might sound a little funny, but it gives you the most beautiful flavor. The ginger adds a little bit of almost sweet spiciness into this chutney. It's really, really good, and it goes super, super well with those cherries and that balsamic vinegar. All right, that's about, I'm gonna say 2 teaspoons. Now into there, I'm also gonna add in some garlic. Just 1 clove of garlic going right on in. Give that a bit of a stir, and you just wanna kind of heat that garlic and that ginger through. You don't want it to burn. So let that go for anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. Already it smells so good in here. This, if you are going to someone's house and you smell this, you are in for a treat, let me tell you. All right. Now, to start building kind of that jammy chutney kind of situation, we're gonna talk about cherries. So I have got 2 cups of cherries over here. I'm using frozen cherries because they are always good, they are always ripe, they are always sweet. You just wanna leave them in your fridge overnight in a sieve, and then all of that additional juice will kind of just drip away. Now, do not get rid of this delicious juice. That in a cocktail, that in a little bit of soda water, you are in for a treat. That is like free flavor right there. But I want to get rid of some of that juice because it will kind of water this down and make it a lot longer to cook. So I'm gonna add those cherries right on into that pot. That little bit of extra moisture that's already in there is gonna kind of deglaze the pan just a little bit. Give that a stir. And then to get things kind of moving around in this pot, I'm gonna add in some more of the flavors that went into that marinade. So the first thing you need is about 1/4 cup of that balsamic vinegar. That's gonna bring tartness and brightness into this. So add that right on in. Then I'm gonna go in with about 1.5 tablespoons of that grainy Dijon. Again, if you don't have grainy Dijon, don't worry, regular will work fine. It'll be a little bit punchier, but like nothing wrong with that. Toss that right in, 1.5 tablespoons. Now, for a little sweetness, just to balance out that really sharp vinegar flavor, I'm going in with 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. If you didn't have maple, yeah, I know, now I'm winning ya. Yeah. It's really good. Maple syrup to me tastes kind of like the grandpa of the sugar world. It's got like a little bit of a like darkness to it. It's really, really good. If you didn't have that, you could totally use honey. A little brown sugar would work well as well. So add that right on into the pot. And then finally, just a little sprig of that rosemary. Now, since this is going into something that's hot, I don't need to bruise it up. Those perfumes will come out beautifully. Give that a good stir up just to come together. Right now, it's gonna look a little bit sloppy, but as you cook this over about medium heat for about 20 to 25 minutes, that's gonna cook down, those cherries are gonna break down, it's gonna be saucy and thick and totally delicious. So while that does its thing and gets to work, I'm gonna talk about the pork. So this pork, we'll say, has been marinating for about 1/2 hour. It's gonna be a lot of good flavor going on in here. So I'm gonna bring it on over here and get to searing it. Now, this recipe, typically, if I'm doing it in the summertime, it is absolutely perfect if you make it outside on the grill. If you were grilling it, I would just oil the grill down and cook it for about 14 to 16 minutes, turning frequently, and I'd keep the lid closed. But we're gonna do it in a pan, just in case you wanna do it all year. Now, that's a smoking hot pan. You want it over about medium high. And I'm gonna add that pork right on in, just to sear, right? Again, that's what you're looking for. All right, so that is going in. Leave any of that additional marinade behind, and you wanna sear this pork. I'm gonna go over here because it's really loud over there. You wanna sear that pork for about 2 minutes per side, and I like to say pork tenderloin actually has 3 sides because it kinda looks like this. So give it a turn, get that sear going, then you're gonna finish it off in the oven. Now that pork, I roasted it in the oven. I finished it up in a 425 oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, just until it's perfectly cooked through. And this cherry kinda chutney balsamic situation looks delicious. It is dark, it is like treacly and jammy, and it looks So good. This on your next cheese board, if you're not even making this pork, go for this. Oh my gosh, that on a piece of like aged cheddar, oh, get out of town. Totally, totally delicious. Now, I used frozen cherries for that chutney, but if you're feeling very fancy, or maybe you have access to a cherry tree, or you went kind of bonkers at the farmer's market and have a lot of cherries to eat up, I wanna show you how I like to prep my fresh cherries. Now, before I do that, I said we're entertaining. Why do I have an empty bottle of wine? That is a terrible entertainer. Mary Berg would never do this to you. But this is actually what I like to use to pit my cherries. Because if you've ever tried using a cherry pitter, they work. But they are that gadget, similar to the potato masher, that just keeps your drawer shut or open, and it's the worst. I hate those gadgets, so I do not keep them in my home. So I'm gonna show you how I like to pit my fresh cherries. So you grab an empty wine bottle, and then you grab a pair of these. You really only need one, but those wooden disposable chopsticks you get with your sushi order, one of these is gonna be perfect. And then the final thing you need is some sort of apron, because this is about to get messy. It's a very good outside activity, but you can just do a Mary Berg apron. The lean back is critical. All right, so you grab your cherry, take the stem out, and then you just pop that right on top of that bottle. Then you get the pointy end of your chopstick and just press it right through, and it pops out. Did you see? Does this take a little bit of time? Yes, it does. But sitting outside, maybe with a glass of wine that you drank from this wine bottle, just popping those babies through, and you end up with pitted cherries all day long. This is where they have to stop me, because this is where I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna stop. This is where I have too much fun on the show. Okay, all right, so that is a good way to pit cherries. And then if you wanted to use those for this delicious dish, you could totally do that. You don't need to drain them. You're not gonna get that extra juice that you can use to make a cocktail, but it would be absolutely wonderful. So I'm gonna go grab that pork tenderloin that's just resting over here on the back counter. And it is looking absolutely beautiful. Finishing off in the oven, make sure you don't get like too charred of an outside. But if you're doing it on the barbecue, you can keep going right on that grill and it'll be good to go. That looks perfect, so, so delicious. So I'm just gonna grab one of these tenderloins right out of this beautiful pan, and I'm gonna slice it up. Now, if you like a thinner slice, go for it, but I typically go on a bit of an angle and just cut big steaks. That perfect blushing pink on the inside is exactly what you're looking for. If you're a real temperature head, about 145-ish when you take it out of the oven will get you this perfect temperature on this pork. Now to serve, I'm just gonna stick with one. Like to grab it all. I slipped my knife underneath. Let's see if I can do this on TV and not just at home alone. And then you bring it over, and then you pop it down. That is looking absolutely beautiful. Then you've got this wonderful cherry kind of chutney. I actually like to just spoon it right onto the plate, right next to that pork. It's juicy. It gives you those little pops of cherry all throughout. That rosemary is just perfuming everything. Feel free to take that little sprig out before you serve, but just pop that beautiful cherry sauce down, a little bit of rosemary right on the side, and you, my friends, have got one heck of a showstopper for your friends. And speaking of friends, I feel like my buddy would actually really like to eat this, and that buddy is Andrea Bucket. Come on out here, Andrea Bucket.
Thank you.
Are you a pork tenderloin girl?
I love pork tenderloin. It's great to feed a crowd.
Yes.
You know, it's great for leftover sandwiches.
Oh, so good.
But more than that, I think quintessential summer for me is grabbing a bowl of fresh cherries,
Yes.
sitting on my back deck, watching the sun sink. It's summer. I love it.
Honestly,
Yeah.
we're coming to your house next. Yeah. Do you want to give this a taste?
I absolutely do. I will never say no when another chef cooks for me.
No, right?
Right? Because we're always cooking,
It's true. And also, guess what? Your favorite ingredients in here.
Okay, mustard.
A little bit
Must
of
be
mustard.
mustard.
Yeah, it's
Moutarde.
true. The little bit of that pop, and you got
Okay.
that flavor. You
Trying
got
to be very delicate, which
You are.
I'm not delicate.
No.
Oh.
Isn't that good? Isn't it good? Get the cherry.
eye roll.
I know. And the cherry, it's like
Oh, wow.
savory, tangy, sweet.
That rosemary in there,
know. A little bit
just
ginger.
really, oh my God, amps it up. So delicious.
Thank you so much. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.